on, guys? Welcome back to the Free Rein 6M podcast. Today it's just me, Maynard, Dad. We're going to take this time to just, let you guys get to know the founder of Free Rein, which is my dad, Maynard. So we'll just kick it off with where you come from.
Yeah, Fort Osage area, Eastern Independence, Missouri.
It's like
Eastern Jackson.
10 minutes that way.
Yeah, I just drove through the other day, and it's pretty cool. I haven't done that for a while.
Yeah, and you actually went to high school with my mother-in-law and father-in-law,
All right.
Steve and Lori.
Yep, same school.
Yeah.
I think Steve and I graduated the same year, and
Yep.
didn't interact much back then, but
Know the same people.
just know the same people. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So where you were born? Where were you?
Born in Kansas City, Missouri,
Uh-huh.
and then mom and dad moved out there when I was like 7 or 8.
Mm-hmm.
And
So what was life like for them when you're a little guy?
Well, it's like every other young family struggling, right? It's make ends meet and
Yeah.
raising 2 boys at that time. And
Mm-hmm.
Dad got on with the railroad when I was real young before he moved out to Independence and, provided us a solid life for us. Mom became a nurse later on, got her college degree and became a nurse. And
So Papa's grew up in Raytown, kind of,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Nana's from Kansas City, Manchester, or St. John area.
yeah, I can remember that area real well, but yeah.
So, and Nana was a Army medic,
Uh-huh.
Papa railroader.
Yeah.
How was life at home with a mom that's a nurse, dad that's a railroader?
Yeah, it was very blue collar upbringing, right? And didn't want for a lot, average income. Both of them worked a lot, and so towards my teenage years, it wasn't such a struggle. We did okay, and didn't Dad railroader, he could go out 2 o'clock in the morning and be back, 10 p.m. the next night. Never know when he was going to go out or when he's going to be back. And so, but whenever he's around, he was, he taught me a lot about, and Mom, they were both a little bit of perfectionists. And so I remember, back in the day, we didn't have like weed eaters. We had hand clippers, and he liked his lawn groomed. And so you had a hand clipper and had to go around all this stuff. But it taught me a lot about detail and discipline and that kind of stuff. So it's good upbringing.
Yeah. So hard work and, grit was valued in the household. Was that like similar, to the other households in your neighborhood? Was it kind of, hard working parents like that?
Sure, yeah. It was a good neighborhood and good people, and trying to live the dream too. I mean, a lot of hardworking people, right?
Yeah.
It's good environment.
Yeah. So, anywhere through, anywhere growing up through high school and everything was, politics or society and that type of thing catch your interest at all? Or,
Yeah, I remember, I was young, but not too young to remember the Carter era and the Reagan era, and Dad was a union head at the railroad, and so, both my parents were Democrat, and so grew up with that. He hated Reagan at the time. I think later in life he probably appreciated him more.
Yeah.
Yeah, blue collar, blue family. And that was a good upbringing.
But no, like, real urge to get involved in, like, politics or, kind of...
And not back then, no.
So just normal upbringing, hard work,
Yeah.
dedication, going to school, getting good grades, and just being a good person.
Yeah. No, the expectations were high. A's were the goal, and And if you got a B, there's a discussion. If you got a C, there's an ass whooping.
Yeah.
But fortunately, I did all right. I was blessed with a little bit of intelligence, so I got through all that. And it taught me hard work for sure. I worked from the time I was 14, clear through high school, some capacity.
Mm-hmm. What kind of jobs did you?
Yeah, I worked for an old guy, one of my favorite guys of all time. When I was 14, a guy named Chauncey, through a friend of mine, his uncle, and he needed a young guy to help him with a variety of things. He was kind of a handyman for a real estate firm, and so he'd do everything from replacing doors to windows to whatever, and so learned a lot from him. He was a riot, too. He drove around in an old truck that looked like it barely stayed together. I mean, I was like, I got in, I'm like, is this thing safe? Yeah. And did that, and then I did work for a railroader, a friend of my dad's, during the summers, a couple of summers. He also had like a lawn mowing business on the side, and so I'd do all the weed eating. And then I went to work at Payless Castways. It's a lumber yard. Did that for a couple of summers. Loved that work. That was cool. Learned a lot from that. So yeah, I learned a lot at an early age about work. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that.
So, yeah, a lot of kids, no matter what they grow up like or, go through in high school or what they're taught by their parents, they get it, hit 18, they graduate, and then life. So what type of, things did you run into kind of getting out in the real world?
Well, I, like a lot of young people, the second half of my senior year, I only had a couple of classes, and so I worked quite a bit with Payless Castways at that time, and then graduated and sort of went through a period where, I lived a lot differently and very irresponsibly.
Mm-hmm.
And I got in some trouble hanging around with people. We had a lot of fun, but we created a lot of trouble too. So
yeah.
And then I got to a point where, I needed to do something. I needed to leave everything behind for a while, and so I joined the military.
Mm-hmm.
Marines couldn't get me in as fast as I wanted to get out of town, and went next door to the Navy, and they got me in quicker.
Mm-hmm.
And
just got the fuck out of there.
Got the fuck out of town.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's what I was getting at. A lot of, especially today, you see just how society is and kids are and the things they're interested in, getting out of high school, and it's just, the whole world hits you at once, it seems like.
It does.
Any fucking funny stories? What's the funniest story you got from that in-between period?
Yeah, well, I remember, like back then, you weren't supposed to drink and drive. It was against the law. We partied a lot, and we ride the back roads and create trouble out in the country.
Uh-huh.
We had a good time. And one time we decided we were gonna do a little four-wheeling, and my buddy got his truck stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And actually not far from Lower End Steve's place.
Yeah.
And so we're out digging this truck out of this hole. Could hardly stand up. No business driving.
Mm-hmm.
Good thing we were really in an area where we could hurt anybody.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we're digging this truck out, and all of a sudden lights start coming out where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a couple of sheriff's deputies. And they get out, and we knew them. And they're like, all right, fellas, what's going on? And we're like, well, got this truck stuck, can't get it out. And they're like, well, all right, we'll give you a hand. And as soon as one of them comes over the truck, my friend Johnny falls at his feet and gets sick and pukes all over the sheriff deputy's fucking boots. Shit. I mean, we get along, but we may not get along that well.
Yeah.
And that guy was the coolest guy. He's like, that was fucking stupid.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to get you out of this hole, and then you guys are getting home.
Yeah.
And we're going to pour all your beer out, and you're going.
That was definitely God looking out for you.
Yeah, it
You
was.
definitely shouldn't be
Absolutely
driving.
was.
We all, or not we all, I can't speak for everybody, but the Fishers seem to have have their days of partying.
Yeah. Another story I've told a few times that I think's funny. When your mom and I were down in Raleigh, I was going to college, and I got off work. Briggs and Stratton, I worked in the evenings through college, and we're watching the news, 10 o'clock news. And that was when she first got out of the Navy, and we moved into this fourplex unit. So anyway, watching the news, and there's a jailbreak at the Warsaw jail, Warsaw, Missouri. There's like 10 people broke out of this jail, and it was infamous for people breaking out. It was easy to get out. It was old jail.
Yeah.
And like 2 or 3 of them were my friends from those days.
Yeah. So that's a good example of the decisions you make today set you up for, the results you get tomorrow.
Absolutely. I mean, our life really comes down to a couple of decisions that we either made good decisions or we made bad decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of your life is impacted by those few decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how that in-between period was. A lot of adjustments, learning experiences, and just living life on your own. That's how it hits you.
Yeah.
That's why it's important to take care of our youth and send them out on a good foot. It's harder and harder these days.
That's right.
Do that.
I think it is harder these days to raise kids.
There's so many distractions out there that they'll just interest a kid, and they just roll with it for however long till they hit a roadblock, and it could be.
That's right. They have so much access to information right at their fingertips.
Yeah.
And some of it's real good and some of it's really bad. And it's hard to manage that.
Yeah. There's really no way for a parent to manage it today. It's you just got to teach them the right shit.
Yep.
That's what it comes down to.
Yep. That's right.
So the in-between period, after that, you're in the Navy. Talk a little bit about your first experiences, kind of getting into that.
That classic story, when you go to boot camp and that first morning somebody's banging the trash cans kind of thing to wake your ass up. Wasn't quite like that, but pretty goddamn close. It was a Filipino guy that was making a bunch of noise, getting us all up. And I thought, this is fucking badass. Like, I wanted to be there, right? So I was ready for it. I think the Navy, especially boot camp, introduced me to a lot of things, because where I grew up, there wasn't any diversity really at that time. And the Navy, starting with boot camp, really introduced me to diversity and so many different perspectives from all parts of the country and all walks of life. And, it was awesome. Yeah. And I learned a lot just in the 2 months. Just about people.
Definitely makes you respect the rest of the world and does care a little bit more.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely does. Yeah. So when I got in boot camp, I was in such a hurry to get out of town, I just took whatever the Navy gave me and found out in boot camp it's something called a boatswain's mate. And a boatswain's mate does all the grunt work on a ship.
Yeah.
Chipping paint, cleaning restrooms, all that stuff.
Yeah.
They're highly respected because if they stick around long enough, you become a chief boatswain's mate. People are like, that's the guy or the girl, right? The shit. But anyway, I didn't really want to do that. So I did well enough in boot camp, accomplished some things, was kind of guy that, people like, and I did a lot of good things just in boot camp. So they gave me an A school, and so I went to corpsman school. And the Navy, a hospital corpsman's the medic.
Yeah.
They're the ones that provide the care of the Marines when they're out there in the field, like you were.
Yep.
And so I went to boot camp or A school, became a medic, hospital corpsman, and then I was top of my class in A school, so they gave me a C school, and I chose to be an advanced lab tech. So that was a solid year, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day for a year, and in San Diego.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot about, our physiology and that kind of stuff. And so it was okay, but the regret is that I never left the United States. I never got on a ship. I was in a hospital setting my entire 4 years.
Yeah.
Learned a lot, but not exactly what I had in mind. It's okay. God's got a plan, and that's what happened. So
Yeah.
that's where I met your mom. Yeah. Portsmouth, Virginia. Portsmouth Naval Hospital.
Yep. If you never would have went in the Navy, we wouldn't be here having this conversation, most likely.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I'd have been a wasted piece of DNA on some fucking hotel dresser or something.
Yeah. It was a great 4 years. Yeah, I still got in a little trouble, I still trying to grow up, and but everything worked out fairly well.
Yeah. So San Diego, what? Now,
Great.
sure you got some.
Great. Yeah.
You and my uncle
Gary
actually lived together.
Yep.
In San Diego, right?
6 months after I went in, Gary went in, and we ended up being stationed in San Diego together, and so we hung out a lot and partied a lot. He went out on a Westpac. He was on stationed on a ship, but we had some times together, and it was cool.
Maybe tell your story about Glenn, your friend Glenn that you grew up with. That kind of
Glenn Huffman
ties all those things.
Yeah, Glenn Huffman and I went to grew up together. We didn't spend a ton of time together, but we were very familiar with each other and had good friendship, and graduated high school and just lost track of each other. And so I was in San Diego on Mission Beach with some friends, drinking beer, and I hear somebody saying, "Hey, Fish," which is my nickname growing up. And I look around, and Glenn Huffman's up there on the wall with a couple of his buddies from the Navy, and he had joined the Navy and drinking beer. And so we hung out that night, and he was actually going out on a ship the next morning.
Yeah.
And then lost track of each other. And then when I was at Rolla, it was like my second year at Rolla. I'm walking to chemistry class, and just before I go in the building, I notice a guy sitting on the wall, and he's reading a book or something, and I'm like, that cannot be Glenn Huffman.
Yeah.
And I walk past, and I look back, and he's looking up at me now at that time, and he's like, "Fish." Glenn Huffman ended up going to school at Rolla too after the Navy, and he became a chemical engineer. He's a brilliant guy, and so that was cool. We ended up spending time together. They had their son, and we had you, and so we spent a little time together while we were in college. And then he graduated the semester before me, and we didn't stay in touch. All of a sudden, when we moved to Green Valley, I found out, I think we had built a house, or maybe our second house. We found out Glenn and Amy were living in Green Valley.
Yeah.
And so, of course, you grew up with their son and Adam.
Yeah.
And we spent a lot of time together when we were in Green Valley. So, yeah, that's the history. That's the story of old Glenn Huffman.
Yeah, we'll have to have Glenn up here.
We just can't get away from each other.
Yeah. Yep. So we kind of jumped into college. So kind of go through your transition from the Navy and what happened in between that and getting into college.
Yeah, when I got out, about a year before I was, my 4 years in the Navy was about to be up. I had met your mom, and then so we were seeing each other, and then I decided, I was like, well, if I'm going to stay in, I can do that, re-enlist. I could get out. If I get out, what am I going to do? And so I thought about college. I said, well, if I go to college, long story short, we talk a lot about being outdoors and spending outdoors and how that brings you peace and freedom, and I've always enjoyed that. I always grew up hunting, fishing, that kind of stuff. I grew up outdoors all the time, and so I was thinking about, okay, I want to do something with the environment. I want to be able to make sure my kids and grandkids and great-grandkids can enjoy those same experiences. And so I decided to go to the University of Missouri Rolla and be an engineer in the environmental industry. And so I was not very good in math. so it's kind of an odd thing. But I struggled through. I got through college at Rolla, which is full of highly intelligent people,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not that intelligent. So anyway, I worked because I learned a good work ethic and a commitment, and because I had you and growing our family, I went all in. I finished it in 4.5 years, which is quicker than most. And I had to start with like basic algebra because I'm not that good at math. So anyway, I got through it. I worked through it, and very happy. It was one of the harder periods of my life, actually, because I had to work in the evenings, and then your mom decided she wanted to go to college, and the program that she wanted was in Warrensburg, Missouri. So I stayed so we moved her and you to Warrensburg so she could go to college there, and that's where we made our home. I just lived in a little apartment then at that point at Rolla and traveled back and forth every weekend, Friday afternoon.
What was your vehicle? What was your
1982 Chevy hatchback. Chevette hatchback. Yeah,
it was the
gold
interior.
It was gold. It was inside and out.
Yeah.
I bought it for like $600. It didn't have air condition. It had an old 8-track player underneath the dash. That's where I got my AM/FM radio.
Yeah.
And I remember the alternator was wired to the firewall with wire just to hold it in place.
Yeah.
It was a good car. I remember when you drive from Rolla through the Ozarks, they got the big hills, and they'd have 2 lanes going up so that people could pass. And I was always the one in the right lane. Everybody's passing real good. Yeah.
So was that the car that, what was your seats in it?
Yeah.
Did it have you had a car that had a milk carton for a seat.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, that was it actually.
Yeah.
And I forgot about that. And I remember it was like I got offered a job in like March before I graduated. And so, we're happy about that because we know we got a job, and it was exciting. And it was like April. I drove home one weekend. I pulled that car in the driveway at the house, and it never started up again. But I knew I had a job, so I could go out and get a car, a better car for us. And we ended up having that Chevette towed to the local technical school so they could use it for learning.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're into college. So before college, you were waiting on Mom to get back from Bosnia. She had went to Bosnia when she was 19 or something.
Yep.
She was a corpsman too.
Yep.
Come back, you guys are together. What were things like, through college? Like, was it tough?
Yeah, it was. We were poor as hell. I mean, we didn't, we're non-traditional students. We had been through the military and a little bit older than most at those schools. And so we had to work and pay the bills and just grinded through that college career, that college life. And, we had you, and so we had to have a place to live and pay those bills, and a little bit different for most college students.
So get out of the Navy, broke, get together, broke, and then you go to college and have a kid.
Yep.
Yep.
So
how soon after that did you guys got married, and then finished up college, things, and then what?
Yeah, I finished college before she did, of course, because I started before her, and so we lived in Warrensburg, and then guess I can't remember how that worked out exactly, but we ended up, as soon as she graduated, moved to Green Valley, which is close to where I'm from, and had a duplex built, and we lived on one side and rented out the other, which was smart,
And for the most part, it was Chad and Gary, and kind of growing up, lived in a duplex. We lived in one side, uncles or whoever, family lived in the other side. So for me, growing up, it was like family was at that point in time, always together. I had a couple of family friends like Leslie and
Yep. Had
They were
our
just always around, barbecues in the backyard, but still, probably didn't have a whole lot, right? Like,
right. Yep.
You guys opened up a tanning salon.
We did. It's kind of an odd thing for us to do, but your mom worked for an accountant that I did the books for a couple of salons, and he's like, he knew we were looking for a way to get into the business and start up something on our own. So we explored that and decided, you know what, we can do this, and started up in a brand new shopping center out by Lakewood, and got into this unit. Got a business loan, and started this business up and spent a bunch of money on equipment and that kind of thing. And it was going fine. Super excited about being business owners, and it's the lifeblood of our country, is small business. And then I don't think like a year into it, the whole Enron issue happened, the crash, the financial system, and it really worried a lot of people and impacted how people spent money, and so that got really tough really fast for us, and we ended up selling it, did everything we could to keep it open, sold it, and sold our rental property and kind of started over. And within a year or two, because we were that strong a team, we did all the things you're supposed to do to recover from that kind of thing, and within a couple of years, we're back on our feet, and credit's good, and ready to live again.
But that wasn't easy to.
That wasn't easy.
Yeah. I think I remember, and I know you remember. There was that time where, I think it was around that time. I remember I was a kid. I was like 5 years old, I think, and looking out the window. I don't know what I was doing, but I was looking out the window, and you come up behind me, and I tell you, Dad, we're gonna be rich someday.
You did,
and that's always stuck with me.
Yeah,
I said that, so I feel like, we got to do it with stuff like this.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, I was telling a friend yesterday about this. It's like one of the things, because we're back in that grind again with this business, and struggling to make everything work and get this thing open. And, it's, we talk about it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough business. And I was telling somebody yesterday, I was going to tell you this. One of the things that has been helpful about you and all of this is that you're always looking at the long game. You're always, no matter how difficult it gets to pay the bills or to do whatever, or to get this thing open, you're always looking at the long game. We got to keep the content going. We got to we got to sell apparel. We got to do all these things. We can't let these temporary problems affect what our purpose is.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate that.
Yeah, I was young and seeing you guys go through what you went through with the tanning salon and everything you did to raise Zane and I at the same time, and just how much work you guys put in to raise us and get where you guys are at in life. And, so I feel like I got to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the first thing. And then having the 2 girls, and,
so now you're experiencing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, definitely the why, I guess.
Yeah. It's hard for people to understand too, that because you had that experience at a young age, and now you're experiencing that for yourself now. And, there's some people around us that, and it's tough for me sometimes. You have to stay focused. You have to sacrifice. You have to be all in, right? We've talked about burning all the ships, right?
Yep.
And I've burned about every ship except one. And I'm not ready to burn that yet. But other than that, we're like all in, right?
Yeah. Definitely all in. Everything I've got, everything you've got, and it's fun.
And it's because we believe in our purpose, right? We got a mission, and our mission continues to, I think, every day get more and more important. This idea of freedom that a bunch of people a few hundred years ago made this country with the sole purpose of life and liberty and freedom from dictatorship and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Now it seems like, we're feeling what maybe they felt when where they came from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yeah, the freedom to do what we want is fun. It also comes with, you have the freedom to fuck a lot of shit up.
Yeah.
Figure it out for yourself.
All right.
A lot of responsibility.
A lot of
A
responsibility.
lot of learning experiences, but I find fun in it all.
Well, we're growing
Yeah.
because of all this, right? Each one of us.
Mm-hmm.
You, Zane, me, your mom, and our partners, Christian, and the people we work with every day.
Yeah.
Everybody that cares about, wants to be a business owner, or wants to chase their dreams in whatever way that is, and wants to have the freedoms to do that, we grow through those because it takes a lot of responsibility, personal responsibility to live that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm all in on that.
Yeah.
We got
So it's got to be.
some stuff in our world. We need to get that shit out
Mm-hmm.
because it's killing us.
Yeah. So back to you get through college, get through the business, the crash, the working your way out of that. What from there? How did you get in the profession that you're in now? What do you do now? Where have you been with it?
Well, I out of college went to work for a consulting firm here in Kansas City, and really good consulting firm. I was super excited. I spent a lot of time. I wanted to be a field engineer. I didn't ever want to be like a PE or design things or sit in the office. I just wanted to be out in the field again, do things that I thought would protect our environment and allow us to continue to enjoy our natural resources. And so I spent a lot of time on projects that, locally, but also out of state, and doing some traveling. And in order to have success in that field, I was going to have to continue to spend a lot of time out of town. And growing up under a railroader who was out a lot, I didn't want to do that for you and Zane. I wanted to be involved in your lives. And so I was looking around, and we lived in Grain Valley, and happened to be at that time, City of Grain Valley was looking for their first staff engineer, and went through the interview process. They hired me. And one of the things that was attractive about it was the director of Public Works at that time, that his plans were short-term to retire.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew there was going to be an opportunity to serve in that capacity. And even though I didn't know shit about local government, or, I'm not a civil engineer, I'm a geological engineer, I don't have a PE, it's kind of odd for a person like me with my background to get into that business. But again, God's got a plan, and it worked out. I became director of Public Works for that little town. And I love that little city that you guys grew up in, and I still have a lot of relationships there. And then had a little success, and built a really strong team there in Grain Valley, and still have friends that work there and rose up in the organization. And so I spent like 7 years there, kind of learned what local government's supposed to look like, learned a few things about maybe, leadership and culture, and, how to build a strong team. And I left there, went to work for the city of Belton as a director of Public Works, which is south of Kansas City in Cass County. And did 6 years there, had a great time, had some good success, built a good team, still got relationships with those friends, and stay in touch, and had a lot of fun. And you graduated high school about 2 or 3 years after we moved there.
Yeah.
And we went in the Marines, and so then I left there after 6 years, and never thought I'd be in it this long. Never intended to be in it this long. And I was actually, toward the end of the Belton period, I was like, I'm going to do something different. I'm ready to do something different. Love public service, learned a lot, but I was ready for something. And then I got a friend that calls me and says, hey, I know, you're not really looking to stay in public service, but Kansas City, Kansas has got director of Public Works open, and I think you ought to check it out. And, Kansas City, Kansas has got some stigmas about it. It's got a little bit of a reputation, and And I thought, well, okay, if your mom and I went up there and drove around and looked around, and I'm like, I know there's a lot of challenges with KCK. If I'm going to do it again, this might be the place to do it, where I can really help and do some good things. And so I didn't even think I'd have a chance. I mean, it's a much bigger city than what I had worked in, but they offered me the position, and I've had a great time since then. I've got a really strong team, really, really good people, really talented people that I work with every day in public works. And I'm super happy and super proud to work with them.
Yeah, definitely. There's been a lot that's gone on, from city to city. But definitely have, always known that you're you study leadership, you're about leadership, and you believe in it, and all the effects that it can have on a team. And then, having a team, a strong team, is something you've always been serious about.
Yep.
So I've learned a lot from that, and I think that translates into free reign. And
yeah, absolutely.
So, there's a lot of struggles with running a business compared to, having people on salary that are showing up, because they get paid, it's a little different, but
yeah,
you always do have a strong team that gets shit done.
Yes, that's right.
Other people talk about it.
Yeah.
So that's,
I've been very blessed to be able to somehow pull a team together in that business that does some really great things and they care about what they're doing. I saw something the other day, about a guy talking about how difficult it is to be in the business for yourself, and the struggles and the pains and the sweat and the blood and the tears, and that, salary positions are easy. And there's some truth to that. No doubt about it. The entrepreneurs and the business owners, there's a lot of work. We talked about that. It's really difficult. I'll take a little bit of exception to the idea that salary positions are easy, because especially in government, there's a reputation about government workers, and they deserve it in most cases. There are a small group of people in local government or in salaried positions that are extremely talented, care a lot about what they do, and because they care a lot about what they do, the work can be very difficult, because you're trying to change culture, you're trying to develop leaders, or you're trying to change an organization, and especially government, it's very difficult to change things. And so that's really why I fell in love with it, is because government can be so dysfunctional, it can be so wasteful. In most cases it is. And my personal challenge, or my professional challenge, is to do everything I can to help an organization, particularly in local government, be the very best it can be and provide as much value to the community it serves as we possibly can. And it's difficult. It's very difficult to do that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think all that is definitely, caring about the community and building teams and providing leadership. I think it definitely translates into what free reign's showing.
Absolutely.
So I think it all makes sense. After going through your whole life and things that you've been through or done, or it all makes sense now. So I think we can wrap this up. Yep. Have a part 2 of how that translates into everything we're doing with free reign. But I think it definitely all makes sense.
Good. Yeah,
thanks for
been fun.
hopping on and
absolutely
explaining that for everybody.
My pleasure.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time for part 2. Have a great night or whatever.
And Merry Christmas
now when we drop this shit. And Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Absolutely.
We might get a podcast.
It's okay to say Christmas.
Yeah.
It's okay to say
it's
Merry
important.
Christmas. Yeah.
It's Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. That's right.